And good day. I am Tamara Scott. Thank you for joining us here at, Tamara Scott Live with Truth for Our Time. We help you live God's Word in today's world because if He expects you to live through it, He's directed you how to do it. And of course, there's always something happening, always a lot of information, really, really too much for a weekly show, but that's all we can muster right now with everything else we're doing. Couple of things. Lynn M. Taylor will be joining us in the show today, be talking about one of the work programs that is coming, the Common Core all through it, and what it means to our kids. It's more than just a curriculum. And when you have career choices greatly limited by things that happen or don't happen in school, I'm not talking about skills you acquire anymore. I'm talking about some slip of paper, some agreement, that stops you from getting a job you may be well qualified to do. This is some of the concerns I think we're going to see with some of these programs. And I'm just learning as well. We're going to have her teach me as well, along with the rest of you on this. Before we get to Lynn, there's a couple of things coming up this weekend. If you are in Iowa, and let me see if I can find the list of speakers. If you are in Iowa, there is a trafficking conference coming up this weekend. It is a great opportunity. Mount Pleasant. Let me see if I can find the church that's going to be hosting it. We'll find it here quickly. Preventing Abuse. Tony Nassif with the Cedars Foundation has been doing these for quite some time, and the list of speakers he brings in is just phenomenal, and that's really what I was hoping to find. But he'll have this weekend at the Faith Christian Outreach Church. Faith Christian Outreach Church, 3202 East Washington Street. That's right in Mount Pleasant, Iowa. It's the 8th and the 9th, Friday and Saturday before Mother's Day. And gee, I can't think of a better gift to women across the country, across the state, than to help prevent abuse and trafficking, because so many of the victims are young girls and women. Yes, young boys too, but so often women. For more information on this, 323-851-3872. 323-851-3872. 323-851-3872. The cost is, I think, $59 per person for both days. And that might have gone up as we get closer to the conference. But here's the deal. There's so much happening right now. A million children reported missing in America. Hundreds of thousands of children trapped into child prostitution. Pornography is the fuel perpetuating the demand, and how children are being sexualized in America. We'll hear about trafficking, the cartels, the internet, the pornography. But we won't just hear the problems, we'll also hear the solutions. So I think if I could just explain, and I'm not doing a very good job, I'm not doing justice to it. The groups they have come speak are incredible. In fact, this time I am excited to go. Dr. Judith Reisman will be one of the speakers. Dr. Judith Reisman is a four-noun expert. She's one who broke Alfred Kinsey. If you've not ever studied Alfred Kinsey, you probably need to do a search. You need to be sitting down when you do it and make sure that there are no children near your computer. Alfred Kinsey is responsible for a lot of the sexualization of our children today. I won't even call it sex ed. The pornography that is in our classrooms. One of the books, It's Perfectly Normal, that they use in curriculum. I can't even show you the photos right now. She broke a lot of the news on him and the falsehoods about who he was, actually being a scientist, actually doing anything clinical. It was nothing more than molestation of children, and it's still being celebrated in universities today, and unfortunately now in our schools. She'll be speaking. Basil Baz, who's been a guest on this show, does recovery for children, the Association for Recovery of Children, 100% retrieval success on the children that he has gone after. He'll be talking. He'll be sharing experiences out in the field, things that he has gained. And if I could find, I'll try and go to some information that I had sent out from last year's conference as well. Michelle Lentz was there from, I think she's from Minnesota. She was sharing to us some of the concerns on the bullying programs. And I want to share this with you because this is what we're dealing with right now in Iowa. We just got news this morning that, again, the legislators are misbehaving, and a few of the Republicans may be joining with Democrats to push a bullying bill through, an anti-bullying bill. And here's the problem with those anti-bullying bills is they often create peer-on-peer victimization. It often increases in schools where they have bullying programs. And as Michelle Lentz has said, they are nothing more than they front for the sexualization of children and the LGBTQ movement. And we're seeing that because remember right here in Iowa, the LGBTQ movement, the anti-bullying conference that started out, and I've already got it in my materials to take to the conference this weekend, the anti-bullying conference turned in flat out to the LGBTQ conference. And in that conference this year, forgive me, I'm going to be very graphic here if you have kids near the screen. In that conference, one of the folks who attended said Sam Killerman, who considers himself a comedian, but if you go to his website, it talks about his humor being a lubricant, a social lubricant. So you can see the mentality he has. And we just put him in front of 1,000 Iowa students, 8th grade at least through 12th. We hear as young as 7th grade. But in this, a student supposedly asked, is gay porn or straight better? And he responded, gay is better. My point is pornography, period, is dangerous. The addiction to pornography is incredible. And unlike other addictions where you can detox and withdraw it from the system, you cannot withdraw pornography. The images, they stay with a person. And Dr. Janice Krause has shared with us on this show before that when students, especially young people, start viewing pornography, it really alters the brain. It physically alters the brain, the chemicals in the brain. So right here in Iowa, though they say it wasn't taxpayer funded, we had organizations like the School Board Association, the Teachers Associations, tax-funded universities listed on the back as sponsors. So somewhere, and school buses in the parking lot. So somewhere there's tax dollars coming to this conference directly or indirectly, and they're promoting pornography, a very dangerous addiction to our minors. Beyond that, they were teaching full-out sexual acts to children who are not even yet of age of accountability here in Iowa. And that all came starting with an anti-bullying program. And so in Iowa, we hear that they're going to be pushing it again. We want you to be on the calling, actually. 515-281-3221 is your house switchboard. And remind your folks, this bill is anti-parenting. The anti-bullying bill they have, one, does nothing new. Everything that's in that bill as far as protection is already in the Iowa Code. It does nothing new as far as protecting students. We already have assault on the books. We already have molestation protections on the books. Teachers are already mandatory reporters. So there's nothing new as far as protection on that book. SOGI, sexual orientation, gender identity, is already in our code. Okay, so there's nothing new there. What is new is the removal of parental authority. This bill will give schools the ability to bypass parents and to exempt parents if a child has been hurt, being harmed, or being the bully. They do not have to tell you. It also gives them the ability to contact or refer students to law enforcement or nonprofits without parental approval. So compounding this bill is the fact that a particular school here in the area has had a suicide, which is incredibly horrific. Our hearts are without escape. We just so wish we could get into the schools with the truth of the hope that could really set these kids free and give them peace and let them know that they were created with a purpose, the value that they have as human beings. But we can't do that anymore because we can't teach the Bible in school. So This bill, what it does, will remove that parental authority. So when this article comes out and they talk about referring this young lady to Orchard Plaza or Orchard Place, a juvenile facility, this mother would have been out of the loop further because they wouldn't have even had to tell the mother that much. What this does is it allows schools to refuse to admit their bullying programs or the problems in the schools. There's no accountability then. If they don't have to notify the parents of the victim or the harasser, there's no accountability whatsoever. What it also does is it says that they can go into a student's private cell phones, pagers, electronic devices, and search. Now, these may be minors, but they still have a Fourth Amendment right. Well, it's sketchy for any of us, and it's been intruded upon and trampled, we still do have a Fourth Amendment right. This bill overrides that. So it's a lawsuit waiting to happen. Only who's going to be the victim in the process while it takes place. It also expands school authority, outside school property, outside school activities. It says this in the bill. To expand that authority, then you have to decrease authority somewhere else. If you're expanding the authority of your school, you are decreasing it from your parents. It is a bad bill all the way around. So we ask you to please make every opportunity to contact your legislator. One of the legislators was noted as saying that homeschoolers have no right to talk about something happening in the public schools. Well, to that I would say, are they not taxpayers? Are they not citizens? Are they not still voters? And what happens in the school greatly impacts our cultural and our social environments. So absolutely, they have every right to be involved, and not only that, must be involved. But I want to come back to a couple of the points made in this from last year's conference. Porn addiction, the brain science. This is harder to overcome than drug addictions. It disrupts the normal release of chemicals in the brain with dopamine, norepinephrine, I can't even pronounce some of these terms, oxytocin, serotonin. Our brains are not plastic. They change. Our brains are not hard formed. They change. So Hyson Cisco, which was with Morality and Media, was explaining the connection between pornography and human trafficking. She said pornography today is available, it's anonymous, it's affordable, which makes it so much more enticing to other people and to everyone. Used to, you remember you had to get that brown package in your mailbox. Now it's so easy at the click, even by accident. And that image within a second, 3/4 of a second, can imprint on a child's brain. She said that while a mom and daughter were looking for American Girl, they brought up accidentally teen porn. The use of common misspellings leads unsuspecting children to these porn sites. She also pointed out that pornography is not victimless crime. It leads to the exploitation of children, women. It also leads to divorce, promotes violence against women. It affects the development of children involved. It increases demand for child porn and sex trafficking. Performers may be coerced and forced, and they often already have a history of abuse. We don't even recognize what most would call porn 20 years ago. We don't even recognize it today because it's so out there and so many of our advertisements are entertainment. I would challenge Hollywood. I would just love to see Hollywood make a movie, a sitcom, something that's entertaining, that's not just a cheap innuendo and sexual shock. I just don't think they have the creative ability anymore. Michelle Lentz, state coordinator for Child Protection League, says 94 to 90% of full-blown AIDS among boys and young men occurs from gay sex. But we can't talk about that. I mean, if you're going to teach this to our kids, why not at least teach the health risks? We do it with drinking. We do it with driving. We do it with drugs. In all fairness, if you have any compassion and love in your heart at all, why not teach the risks that comes with behaviors? So that's happening this weekend. The trafficking conference is in Mount Pleasant. Did I get you the name of that church? Forgive me. Let me go back. The name of the church is Faith Christian Outreach Church. Faith Christian Outreach Church in Mount Pleasant. You can go to preventingabuse.org, preventingabuse.org, or you can dial 323-851-3872. And again, Basil Baz with the Association for Recovery Children, Dr. Judith Reisman, and a long list of great speakers will be there. It's good information for you to have. Solutions, restoration, national security, the threat, the moral breakdown, terrorists, the media, the positive role that the church and the family can offer in combating this in your community. Here's what Senator Chuck Grassley has said about this work. The work of Preventing Abuse Foundation is critical in keeping men, women, and children safe. Also, our governor has also commented as to the work that Tony Nassif does with this organization. So the new rate is $59 per person for both days. There's a special rate, $29 for both days, including the 2 special briefings on law enforcement and pastors. If you are in law enforcement or pastoral field, you can get a rate of $29 a day. So great for you to have that. We're going to take a break right now. Thank our sponsors. We want to thank Crave, Christians for America, Crave, Christians Reviving American Values Every Day, for their sponsorship and making this possible. We thank Webcast One Live as well for making it possible for us to be in studio. We'll be right back after these words from our other sponsors.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can give these grandkids back if you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We can help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places. Especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart, and it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you.
I am Tamara Scott. Thank you for staying tuned with us. And a further update, Homeschool Legal Defense Association is coming out against the bowling bill in Iowa because they fear that not just public school kids will be in danger, it's anybody will be in danger. He says they can report anyone to law enforcement. It doesn't specifically say a public school student. So if you're a homeschooler, you're not off the hook with this anti-bowling bill. So Josh Burns is the representative who said that homeschooling parents shouldn't be involved in public school issues. This one certainly reaches out and will touch in a very uncomfortable way many homeschoolers if someone decides to attack them, justified or unjustified. Everyone is at risk with this bill. So thank you, Homeschool Legal Defense Association, for coming out in opposition to the anti-bowling bill here in Iowa. Joining me now is Lynn Taylor. Lynn Taylor is on Facebook. You can find her there, but she's from North Carolina and writing about the Common Core, the problems with the Common Core. And you may find her, Common Core Diva, at WordPress. Good morning, Lynn.
Hi, Tamara. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for joining me. It's good to hear your cheerful voice. There are so many things we have to talk about on this show. They're just sometimes not even fun.
Okay.
We've been talking about the bowling bill here in Iowa, and it's just ugly. The conversation around it is just ugly. and talking about a trafficking conference as well that I'm participating in this weekend and all the dangers that are taking place with that. And it's just ugly conversation. So here we are going to deal with Common Core, more ugly conversation, but it's nice to hear your pleasant voice as we do.
Oh, well, thank you. And thank you. And I hope all your listeners are having a great day. It's a wonderful day here in North Carolina.
So let's tell our listeners they can find you at, is it Common Core Diva?
Yes, if you just would put in your general search, if you just type in Common Core Diva, you should be able to see that it pops up, and it's usually followed, like, I think it's all run together. It says Common Core Diva, then .wordpress.com. I'm also on Twitter. You can find me there using the @ symbol, and then just put in Common Core Diva there. You can also find me under my Facebook page, which is Lynn. That's LYNNEM, as in Marie, Taylor, TAYLOR. So I'm on Facebook as well.
Very good. All right. So the topic we're going to discuss today is what you have just posted on a couple pages earlier this morning, Upskilling America. Upskilling, SKILLING, not upscaling, Upskilling America. And this is part 1. But talk to us a little bit. What are we talking about here?
Okay, let me tell you just a little bit before I go into what it is. Let me tell you how I found it. I was on Twitter yesterday doing some research, and I happened to see a legislative calendar for another pro-Common Core group, and I was looking at some of the things that they're calling attention to and wanting to support, things like reauthorizing the H.R. 5 and then the reauthorization of the Higher Education Act as well. So I was curious, and I thought, well, I wonder what some of the other pro groups are doing as far as their legislative alerts. And so I went and looked at the Council of Chief State School Officers, and in their particular legislative action calendar was this one group called the American Association of Community Colleges. But then right behind it, it said Workforce Development Institute. Now, as much as I have researched, I have not heard of this particular institute. Now, I've heard a lot about workforce, and I know from all the research that I've done that Common Core is most definitely in our post-secondary educational realm, which will impact students of all ages and from all educational backgrounds. So I went and I started digging into them, and it was the video that was embedded on the particular page for the Institute where this term Upskilling America was used. It's not necessarily the name of a program as it is sort of a concept for an idea that we need to make sure that our workers are as aligned with businesses. So that would mean that we have not only businesses involved in education, which we know we've seen what that has happened. It would be that we're tailoring our post-secondary education to those businesses. So that's pretty much the concept behind the upskilling.
Okay, so we've heard talk about certificates, that students will not be able to graduate without a certificate. And if they don't have the certificate, that then they will not be able to be employed. And some are saying no matter how old you are, this is going to be retroactive. And if you don't have the certificate, you haven't gone through the process and you may not be able to get a job. Is that similar to what you're talking about?
I believe that it's probably going to be intertwined in through there. Probably your most common denominator in all of this, Tamara, would be what's called the Work Keys Assessment. Now, according to different states, and you would have to look at each of the ones as far as graduation requirements, because I do know that some states are now reconfiguring graduate criteria to include these Work Keys assessments so that you can supposedly streamline on into, say, a community college or a career technical course or something like that. And it is those Work Key assessments that no matter what age you are, because I know that probably about 6 or 7 months ago, I was able to access a video from the city of Santa Fe, New Mexico, where the public works crew had to go in and take this Work Keys assessment as well. And if they didn't take this assessment and they didn't have the results, then no, they could not go on and get jobs. And so, yes, that is very much probably going to be your most common denominator.
Okay, this is a work crew that had to take this. These were all folks who are already employed?
Some of them were already employed, but some of them were also seeking new jobs. And so the mindset behind this whole, yes, we need to have this assessment, is to try to streamline what your talents are. And let's say, for example, that you and I went in and we took it. And, we're by profession, we are activists. But let's say our assessment showed us that we were more skilled at, say, paper folding. Then everything that we would do from that point on would be geared toward our learning how to paper fold, not what our real interests or talents are.
Okay, so I'm thinking back to all of the folks, the man who is the founder of Hershey, the lovely chocolate that we all enjoy, obviously very successful. And I'm trying to find very quickly the bio that I had read on him, but grew up poor, extremely poor, and I don't think had much of an education, but went on to create Hershey's chocolate. Obviously very successful.
Mm-hmm.
What you're saying, this would not be able to happen.
It doesn't appear that those kind of entrepreneurs are going to be the ones that are sought out anymore. And this is what is so troubling, is because without those sorts of entrepreneurs or creative spirits, we're not going to have much choice. And to me, that is the one thing that I've noticed is another common denominator throughout all this education reform, no matter what age it is that our choice, our freedom, is being slowly and very craftily taken right out from under our noses.
It absolutely is. But so to folks who are listening who think, I don't have kids in school anymore, this doesn't impact me. You're saying it absolutely will. In the workforce, it absolutely will.
There is no absolute doubt about it. All right, let me give you an example. Okay, in North Carolina, we are what's known as a right-to-work state. So until legislation is changed, we don't necessarily have some of the hoops to jump through to get jobs, because we believe that everyone should have one. However, we have seen that AccuPlacer, Aspire, and all these other work keys types assessments are slowly starting to come in. But let's contrast that with, say, the state of Georgia. In certain counties there, if you have not taken the work keys and gotten this certificate, then no, you cannot apply for a job. And I know that this goes on in other states as well. So my children, two of them are homeschool graduates. One is in college right now. She's getting slammed with Common Core aligned courses. My other child is in community college. She's absolutely getting slammed with that, but she's also finding out where she is that, okay, I was a homeschool graduate. I was an honor graduate. I, had no problem going in my college career so far, but yet when I want to go try to find a job, I now have all these parameters that I've never had before, which is I didn't take this test, or I don't have that assessment, or I don't have this certificate. So it won't matter what educational choice you're in when you, or if you purpose to not have Common Core through your homeschool K through 12, when they leave your home and they go to enter the workforce or they go to enter a college, that is where the rubber hits the road.
Okay, so I'm coming back. I'm looking up my Hershey biography to see if I'm right on this.
Okay.
And Milton Hershey failed. Let me see if I can find this. He was a philanthropist who founded Hershey Chocolate Corporation, popularized the chocolate candy throughout much of the world, and obviously successful. But it says here, after 2 failed attempts. So he failed at something first. That experience probably helped him in setting up the Hershey that we know, the Lancaster Caramel Company. And in 1900, he sold the company and focused on perfecting the formula for the chocolate bars and began building the site that became the world's largest chocolate manufacturing plant. Why am I bringing this up? Because my point is, he didn't always succeed. He might have failed. He might have failed some tests. We're not even sure about his education. Lacking is what I think I read before. My point being, Lynn, you probably know people, I know people who have started careers late in life that one was not what their education was in. We know countless people who have degrees and they're working in another vocation, another career field, nothing to do with their degree. We know others who may not have a degree, and yet they're some of the wisest, most educated people we know because they've continued to learn, just not in that educational institutional system, which gives a degree. So these people, what we're doing is, are we basically instilling a caste system in America?
You know, I think that is the mindset, because if you look at some of these, if you really peel back the layers behind some of these pro-organizations, you will see, pro-Common Core organizations, you will see that it's not so much education reform as it is America reform. And what better way to do this than through the dividing, if you will, of the masses. In the particular article that I wrote today, the key person who was speaking, one of the things that he kept reiterating, and this was kind of like, oh my goodness, he kept pointing out the brilliance of the few, but the efforts of the many will be what deliver us. Well, if you look at the different college career, technical career pathways, career clusters, the bulk of the class of the material is for those who would be in what's known as the blue collar, whereas those who with the more typical white collar jobs, their options are much fewer. And the whole design, from what I've been able to research and find, is we don't need a whole lot of leaders. We need just a few. But we need all these minions, so to speak, to carry this out. And one of the other examples that was brought up, you brought up Mr. Hershey. Well, think about Mr. Ford. In this particular speech that I'm referencing that is in my article today, we all know Henry Ford has a massive institution now. He also has a huge foundation that lives on in his name. One of the most pro-Common Core supportive entities out there, but yet it was his hard work and the way he drove his people that was being, glorified in this particular speech that I listened to. And it was, in one respect, Henry Ford was fabulous, but in another respect, if you look at the way he was as a person, he was a horrible person towards his workers. He was very mean, and the reason I bring this up is not to pick on him, but it's just, if we're going to have these leaders, be they many, be they few, we need to really make sure that they're groomed in character, not just this is how we do this, and this is the only way you do this, and, you're out here to make a profit for me. No, we should be, if we're going to lead well, we need to follow well, and that's not what I'm seeing with all this alignment.
Well, and it doesn't take as much imagination, Lynn. The folks who came up with Facebook, didn't he drop out of college?
I think he did.
Bill Gates or Jobs, didn't one of them drop out of college?
Yep.
So obviously, Henry Ford might have been a benefactor of the time in which he lived. But if he were now trying to do the same thing today, then the very program which you're saying they support, and I didn't know, Ford is big support behind Common Core?
Oh, sweetie, yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay, so the very program they're supporting, it would create his failure. He would not be allowed the same freedom to be an entrepreneur and be successful.
Oh, there are many of the pro supporters that if they were having to go back through what we're seeing our kids faced with, or our people who are going back to work after so many years, because, it's going to hit them too. Let's face it, I'm going to be retiring from my school in about a month. I will be capable to, theoretically, to get back in the workforce. And guess what I'm going to get slammed with? The same stuff. So it's not going to matter. But it's just unbelievable how America is buying into this, and it's being sold to us that the only way you can succeed is to go through these particular aligned courses, and the only thing that matters is your diploma or your certificate. It's just, I'm sorry, it's bull.
Politely said. I want to come back. Henry Ford, it's appropriate because I use him as an example when I talk about Common Core. When we hear that you can choose your own curriculum, we hear that often here in the state. People say you'll still be able to have your own curriculum in your school districts. I bring this back to Henry Ford saying you can have any color you like of a Model T.
Yeah.
As long as it's black.
Right. Right.
It'll be the same thing with Common Core. You will not be able to have any curriculum you like. It will have to be aligned to the test because that test is what your teachers will be evaluated on. Your schools will be reported and defined as to how your students do on that test. And we're hearing funding may or may not be given in response to how you're doing. Schools will be in need, and we hear the government may send in folks then to reorganize your school if you have a school in need. So,
yeah. Well, you need to also look not just at, not just at the educational, but look at the Department of Labor. Look at the Department of Health and Human Services, both on a federal level and a state level, because I can tell you that the research that I've been able to do, the career pathways, the career tech education in the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act of 2014, embedded in 21 different instances throughout that piece of legislation, ways to further tie us to this aligned post-secondary education. Now, why embed in 21 different ways if this is fine and upstanding and had been done constitutionally, honoring and not broken so many laws? And then the other question would be, why are we now orchestrating federal legislation to kind of cover our bottoms so that, we made a big mistake, but instead of being accountable, we're just going to go hide it in this legislation, not once, but so many times that there's no way you could possibly get out of it.
And give us the name of that bill again, the 2014.
It is the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act of 2014. I wrote about it both on my particular blog and then on PreventCommonCore.com. And I can tell you one of the articles that was on PreventCommonCore.com gave you the actual video where the spokesman for the U.S. Department of Labor shared that lovely tidbit of fact. And it was like, you've got to be kidding me. And then I went and I've looked it up. And so the Workforce Quality Data Initiative, look that up for your state. Look it up wherever you happen to be, because you will see that the states have been treated much like they were in the race to the top, where grant money was awarded. But that's fine, that's great, that's wonderful. But look at what the purpose is. It's not for anything other than creating a system where the Department of Labor's data will be married, if you will, to the student longitudinal data system that each of us has been coerced into as well. Now, the feds, at least on this one, said, well, we know we can't mandate it that it be national, but, if we award your state these millions of dollars and you just happen to have your system aligned with our other system, look, and then suddenly all the states are connected. We've done their work for them, and it's been totally legal.
And so now we're jumping a little bit, if you don't mind. SBAC, Smarter Balance Assessment Consortium, is one of the two testing consortiums, PARC being the other one, Partners in Assessments for Readiness for College and Career. And I'm having so many things go through my head. I could go down any path with you right now. Since we're dealing with Smarter Balance right now in Iowa, trying to make sure that we don't go with that, though the task force is doing little more than a dog and pony show of what the Department of Education is wanting and going with pursuing SBAC. And in Iowa, we know it will cost anywhere from $24 per student more per test than the other assessments we have right now. When they go with that assessment, that data, even though we're hearing Smarter Balance folks sat in meetings and said, no, we don't share data.
Mm-hmm.
They share data.
Oh, they absolutely do. In fact, I cannot remember what month it was, but I was able to get into both the Park and the SBAC technical data bulletins to find out exactly where all that data goes and how it's taken. And so it would take me just a little bit to pull that back up, but I do know that I have that. So if I can't present it during the phone call, I can make sure that I can send you that information so that you can have that to share with your listeners.
Basically, here's what we're figuring out. Anytime you hear a bill like this one that you just talked about, Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, anytime you hear that, basically right now you need to understand that it's probably saying the opposite of what the title says. We're finding that more and more with education. This is not an Opportunity Act. This will be limited opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and I want to come back. Lynn, I know everybody out there's probably had a bad haircut from a licensed beautician.
Right.
The licensing, the degree simply says you've been through the hoops. But it doesn't necessarily say you have the skill.
Right.
So this upskilling that they're talking about, it's just not that simple.
No, and I think if you go back and you listen to the entire interview, when you hear the person who's speaking describe upskilling, and then you listen to the rhetoric of the other people who are featured on the video, what you see is not so much we're giving our students more skills, so that instead of just being competent, we can actually master, because that's one thing that is woefully amiss, is that with all the outcome-based education, we've lowered the bar to being competent. Well, I'm sorry, if I want a surgeon, I don't want a competent surgeon. I want a masterful surgeon.
You're right.
So when you look at all this upskilling and you get behind all the fancy words and the buzzwords they're using, what you're seeing is that we're going to rebrand the career pathways or the career tech education so that one more time it's going to look like you're getting a whole lot of stuff, but not a whole lot. When I've heard conversations with students in these particular courses. For instance, I was giving blood one time, and there are the phlebotomists, I kid you not, and they're having this conversation. I'm sorry I didn't have a tape recorder. I would have felt like a little spy if I had. But their conversation went something like this. We just got our new curriculum. And guess what? Some of our most important pieces are missing. Now, I'm sitting there with my needle in my arm, and I'm giving blood, and I'm hearing that phlebotomist curriculum is leaving out some of the most important parts. Instantly, the mom in me goes, what parts? The educator in me goes, and when did this happen, and can I see the book? Yeah, they're leaving out key parts of information for things that you can go here in North Carolina. You can take a phlebotomy course, I kid you not, and within 2 months, boom, you got your certificate. I don't want somebody who can just maybe help me give blood. I want someone who knows skillfully how to do that so that I don't feel 1 ounce of pain.
Well, that they do it properly, that there's not harm to you physically, that there's not transmission of disease, that there's health.
Well, we sanitary, yeah.
Right,
mm-hmm.
Right. So we see the need for training. You and I are not saying that we shouldn't have training. What we're saying is that that we should be able to hire people according to their skill and how they stand out and what their gift setting is. And I'm sorry, but the assessments that we're talking about right now on computer cannot assess a gift set, not a skill set, a gift set.
Right. And you know, think about how we were raised. Think about how we have raised our kids. Do what you love to do. And when you have to put everything through the lens of Common Core or through the filter of career tech ed or career pathways, that love goes straight out the door. And no, we're not doing what we love to do. We're doing what some bloody test told me I was good at, even though I don't like it.
You just hit on one of the major problems with education, even pre-Common Core, the whole secondary education institution. And we saw it last week was the Kentucky Derby. And the jockey that won, they interviewed him, and he said, you know, they're talking about how unlikely it was that he is where he is. And obviously, if we would have had the Common Core, he wouldn't have gone through the proper pipeline and wouldn't be able to be there, frankly. But he said, I always wanted to be successful and be a millionaire. And that he put those two things in the same sentence broke my heart. We have so... We'll take a break and we'll come back and we'll talk about this. What we've done with our kids, this goes beyond education. And this is why we're having all the issues that we are having in the world of education. We keep coming up with these foolish ideas and these recycled education reforms that continue to promote just wrong policies, not a love for learning. We'll come back. Lynn Taylor is my guest today, commoncorediva.wordpress and preventingcommoncore.com. Is that your website?
No, it is Prevent Common Core. No, actually, I was invited to become a writer for that particular website. Yes, there's a pair of gentlemen based out of Virginia who actually started that particular website.
All right, very good. Well, we'll be right back after these messages. We thank our sponsors, and stay tuned.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed, fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're gonna make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money-back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
And thank you for joining us. I am Tamara Scott. My guest is Lynn Taylor. Lynn is with commoncorediva.wordpress, commoncorediva.wordpress. And so we're talking about education today. We're talking about the Common Core. We're talking about upskilling. It's a new term. And Lynn, you have that on commoncore.wordpress.com. You have it broken down. You have minutes in the video broken down, so people can just go to your commoncore.wordpress.com, go through your article and find information.
Right, it's commoncorediva.wordpress.com, and yes, it's today's article. It's part 1, and I'll finish it up with tomorrow, part 2, because as I was going into it, there was just so much I could not get into one particular article. I was like, okay, I'm going to have to split this up because it's absolutely huge that we have these kinds of conversations, and I'm so thankful that we live in the age that we do, because we are here fulfilling that much-needed purpose of getting this, not only uncovering these things, but getting them out there and exposing them. And that's risky, but it's the risk I'll gladly take.
Well, we thank you for the work that you've done on that. Before we went to break, we were just talking about the fact that people have so confused the idea of making a lot of money with being successful, and here's, I think, one of the best ways to break it down. I think this comes from Paul J. Lee was his name, and it was Principal Approach. What we've taught our kids is that they have to get good grades so that they can go to college, so that they can get a good degree, earn a lot of money, and therefore be successful. And the sad thing is, as Paul J. Lee said, what is success? We believe success as a Christian is glorifying God. And so how you do that success is, what if we instead taught our children, one, you do well in school because you do your best. You always give your best. You do your best. You do well, and by doing your best, you are successful. If you are successful, however that is, you glorify God in that manner. You may then have that money, but you glorify God with that manner. I mean, I just look at the whole mindset of where people are. Like, money is the key, the end all. And I you have to look no further than Hollywood and see lots of folks with money who certainly don't have their act together, seem to be confused, in turmoil and unrest. We have people chasing dreams, trying to do career fields that they know nothing about because they think there's good money in them. We have kids picking up career fields that are just bizarre, that you wouldn't be able to make money in unless you stay in the educational institutions. And I think the schools are asking them or promoting that they do this. What we're trying to instill, Lynn, what we used to have in this country was a simple love for learning.
Right.
A love for information. If anything, we seem to have made, I would say, education our God, and knowledge the idol. Knowledge being the degree, the number of degrees, the idol.
I think that's very well put. I think those who are behind this reform not only have made education the be-all, end-all, and like you just said, I just can't even put it as well as you just did, but I think that is huge, because if you look at the amount of effort that's gone into all this is how they're envisioning America, is that, everybody's going to have the one way and the only way, and any love, any joy, any possible fun you could have with learning, no matter what your learning style is going to be just squashed, because we don't, that's not successful, so to speak. Well, I totally disagree. If you are doing what you're the best at, and you are enjoying life, and you're glorifying God, and you have maybe 50 cents in the bank, or you have $1 million in the bank,
right.
It doesn't matter.
Right.
I'm doing what is my part in this great big scheme that God has in His plan. That's it. That should be what we aspire to. But I think you're exactly right. Somewhere in America, the shift went from personal success into corporate success, and that's what is really driving much of this reform, from not only corporation level, but from political level, from all these lovely foundations who, oh, yes, I have gobs of money, and yes, here, I can make your education be this way, but it has to dance to my tune.
You hit it with corporate success, and, certainly we love capitalism. It gives us the freedom and the liberty in America, our power of the dollar. We vote with our money, what we like, what we don't like, which is why we don't need so many of the laws, the civil rights protections. Let it be. People will go to the businesses that they want to go to. in those businesses and their values. What we're seeing is actually people being persecuted now for their beliefs. The one thing that used to be protected in that First Amendment is now under attack. So you hit it with corporate success, and I'm hearing young kids talk about capitalism as if it's the problem, corporations as if they're the problem, and I think that might be coming from that same belief that's coming up through the educational system.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I want everyone to understand, first of all, I'm not against education. I mean, I think a quality education is wonderful. Is it for everyone? Not necessarily. I think capitalism is fabulous. Freedom, oh my Lord, that is why I'm fighting so hard, because I don't care what kind of freedom it is. We have no right to take it away from someone to give it to someone else and then sit there and say, well, you can't do that. And yes, that's a component of all this. But I just, it's the freedom thing for me every time. It's the fact that the Constitution has been I'm sorry, I'm going to use this phrase. It's a Southern thing, but it's just been peed all over. You don't do that to the Constitution. I'm sorry. That's what toilet paper's for, but you don't do it on the Constitution. That is a framing document. And I'll go back to my upskilling article from today. The speaker kept talking about the pursuit of happiness and the life, liberty, and, the whole, how to say it properly. I'm getting it all balled up. And he got his patriotic moments on and, talk the talk, but not once was it ever brought up that the Constitution, to get where they were going with all this upskilling, had been violated, or that federal education laws had been broken. No, none of that has been brought up. And when you do bring it up, you're a nut. You're a conspiracy theorist, and I'm sorry. No, we're not. Those of us who are being brave enough to bring this part up, we want to see, if there's going to be education reform, we need to see it done, first of all, legally.
Absolutely. Through the people, by the people, we the people. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. It should go through the legislative branches, not as it did through many of the executive branches signing on for the race to the top money. And you said the phrase earlier on, you're right, they absolutely try to use phrases that sound much like those of our founding fathers, but are not quite there. And even if the phraseology is, the intent behind the statement certainly is not the same of that as our founding fathers. When they said that statement, brilliance of a few, effort of many, the way that we have so many creations and innovations in America is that people have been allowed to express themselves, to find their interests, to do their own thing. And if we continue on with this Common Core, that is so limited. Plus, we shut down that thinking process, that creativity and that innovation of the young child is stifled in all of this. We haven't even gotten to the kids who don't learn like everyone else. We're assuming that everybody sits down pen in hand or pencil in hand and can fill out the test on the computer, that can do the work on the computer at the same way. It doesn't work because, first off, you're not starting out with the same product. You'll never be able to judge measure where everyone is because you're not starting out with the same product. But what about those kids who have special needs?
Oh, well, I don't know about in your state, but I do know here in North Carolina, our special needs students in the traditional school systems are being expected to take algebra at a 9th grade level. Now, I have friends with special needs. There is no way on God's green earth that they will be able to handle algebra at any age, much less be made to take it at a certain grade level. But that's what's going on. Unfortunately, the U.S. Department of Education has people like those with special needs, as well as those at risk for dropout, or those who tend to be in trouble with the law quite a bit. They're known as the alternative education group. And, of course, Common Core has been billed and the career tech education has been sold or billed as a way to have them encompassed in this great big, wonderful bunch of stuff. And no, I'm sorry, it doesn't. It continues to discriminate. It continues to make the bar so high for some of these kids, it's impossible. Now, I'm all about educational challenges, but if we over stimulate some of these kids by having too much of a challenge, what are we in fact going to do to them?
Many of them will shut down in a very negative.
Absolutely.
We're seeing it with the kids who don't have special needs shutting down.
Right.
I've shown videos where kids are stabbing themselves with pencils because of these tests.
Absolutely.
We're out of time.
Absolutely.
Lynn
Oh,
Taylor
okay.
has been my guest today. Lynn, thank you for joining me. And
well, thank you for having me.
commoncorediva.wordpress.com.
Yes.
Also on Facebook, she gave you her name straight up, Lynn M. Taylor. And you can contact her if you have questions on that special learning, and I may be referring some of our IO folks with questions to you on the special ed. Thank you for sharing the concerns on the upskilling. Basically, folks, whatever it says, you need to be weary of the title and expect the opposite if it's coming from the education arena today. So we've been given a lot of information. Go to her website, her WordPress.com, commoncorediva.wordpress.com, and study for yourself. Get on some of those Facebook pages. See what you can do. Your children's future is at stake. And when their future is at stake, the country in general is at stake. Thank you for listening in. Be encouraged and never be complacent.